why these horrible things are happening. And then us watching it through the lens of a cartoon and seeing the real American hero fight terrorism. And then I look at where we are now and trying to untangle this ridiculous knot of kind of American exceptionalism bullshit in people's heads. I don't know what the climate is like where you're at on the East Coast, but even out here on the West, it's really hard to untangle that knot and show people like, no. This was really going on at that time. Yeah. Which is why I like your show, because your show, in my opinion, helps slowly untangle some of those knots so you understand it's just not that simple.
You know what one of the depressing things about that is how many of those stories, how many of those brands, their deaths, their expirations come down to the same things. Like, we keep coming back to the same like reasons that they died, you know, whether it is issues about global economies related to the price of oil, that's a big one, or it's just a war ended, a presidency changed. You know, the country's climate was either very pro-war because we needed to be, you know, very nationalistic at that point, or it was very anti-war because we had been at war too long and now we were tired of it.
So eco-terrorists.
You know, it's like, what are we going to try to sell today? You know,
but even the original ninja movies, if you remember, those were like Cold War movies.
Oh, for sure. It's, you know, back to just one last point about G.I. Joe real quick. I don't know if we're moving on from that, but the concept, the interweaving of a real American hero with the idea of G.I. Joe is still very hard for Hasbro to move away from, because the audience won't let it. They won't let that idea that it is purely American, whatever that means. And I think it's very, very, very closely, tightly tied to that American exceptionalism concept, that's one of those last sort of bastions of hero that we can say, no, this is a pure thing. This is purely American, and we can't replace it. It can't be a global force. It has to be an American force. At least that's what I see from a certain percentage of the audience.
So there could be no allyship with like the CCP in China.
You know, they haven't tried it yet.
Somebody would bomb the Hasbro office
because, you know, it's a frustrating pop culture. It's such a frustrating thing because when we're kids, right? When you watch G.I. Joe, when you watch Star Wars, when you saw Star Wars as a 10-year-old, you weren't thinking of the political implications of that, you know, and you talked about it on that episode. You just see it as lasers and laser swords and spaceships and dragon monsters and that kind of stuff. It's not until later that you look back, when you are older and more experienced and more educated and you have seen the world to some degree, that you can say, oh, yep, there's politics in there. I see it now. I didn't see it then, but I see it now. So these fans who grew up with G.I. Joe and Thundercats and this stuff when they were kids and just saw the dynamic as pure good versus pure evil, when they get older and they start to re-examine those things, or those brands try to introduce those same kinds of things, now they go, this is forced diversity. Just make it like it was. It was just good and evil. And you can't, you know too much now, right?
Yeah.
And so you go back and say, no, if you looked at this as a 40-year-old when it came out in 1983, you'd feel the same way about it. You'd see that they were doing this on purpose.
To hear the rest of this show and more, you can find us at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Podbean, and wherever else you get your podcasts. This is Revolution. Oh, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.